Hey guys, I decided to do something I've never done before, which is to paint a portrait without a sketch. Meaning it's a watercolor portrait, but I won't be sketching out with a pencil beforehand. So it's pretty nerve-wracking, but that's why I'm doing it, I guess. I like the thrill. What can I say? So anyway, I'm starting off with a background and I wait for it to dry completely before going in with a purple. This is the underpainting. The person that I'm attempting to paint is a girl with dark skin, and I found that purple is often a perfect underpaint for darker skin. So that's why I'm choosing it, and I'm going in with a really light wash, and just sort of making out the contours, the shape of the face, and placing the ears and also the neck. And then I do this wet on wet technique where I just add a little more color because I'm feeling bold, I guess. And also this is an experiment, so I need it to be a little bit bold to be able to learn from my mistakes, because I know I'm gonna make mistakes in this, and yes, I have done plenty, as we will see. But that's the only way to learn. So, I'm happy about those mistakes, actually. So I just go in and I just enhance some of the darker parts of the portrait. And add a little bit of details around the ears. So, and then I wait for this to dry. And after it's completely dry, I keep on enhancing every little crevice and whatever. And as you can tell here, I'm adding a little too heavy of a layer of purple. At least that's what I think at this point in time. But it's actually pretty good that I add a little bit of that and go a little bit bold, because and then I need to start on the face, and I start from below, which is also very uncommon for me. But I wanted to experiment, so I want to do things as I don't usually do. So I'm just placing very, very lightly. Very, very lightly. I'm placing lips, nose, and eyes. Now she has a bit of a sad look on her face, as you will see. I will reveal the reference photo at the end of this video. You will see that it doesn't really look, there's not a lot of likeness and resemblance, but that's okay, because this was just an experiment and I've never done this before. Scout's honor. Cross my heart and hope to die. I've never done this before. I've never done a portrait without a pencil sketch. Well, maybe when I was a kid, but not since I started drawing seriously, or what you would call it. So, and you might wonder, why do I spend so much time with this underpaint? And why use underpaint? Well, I use underpaint for various reasons. One is because it sort of gets, you get around on the whole paper and you put like a tone down. And so that there are no like white areas. And that helps evening out something like skin tones. And also purple is really good for balancing the brown tones of her skin. As you will see, because it allows you to use a more yellowy and red, orange and yellowy brown, which really makes the skin tone come alive. At least I think so. I don't know what other people use. I just found personally that I think purple is really good for that when we talk about darker skin tones. So as you can see, I have placed everything, and after this layer dried, I come in again and build up those start parts. And I'm still on the underpaint. It's just one tone of purple. It's let me see, what's the tone? Dioxazine purple. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's from QOR. I think it's called Core Watercolors. It's made by Golden. You probably heard of Golden. It's a very renowned brand. It's really good. They have really quality paint. And again, as you can see, I'm using the underpaint, and I'm really putting a lot of color on it. Maybe I shouldn't have done this at this point. I'm also learning here. So this experiment is something that I will use in the future and maybe go a little bit lighter on the underpaint. But I want it. I need it to really go heavy on it, to learn from it. Because if you don't take a chance, you don't make the... If you're going to make a mistake, you might as well do it thoroughly. Like really make a mistake so that you can learn from it. Don't do it half, man. Just really do it. As you can see, I often apply a thicker coat of color, and then I sort of regret and add more water or take off the paint from the brush, but it's okay. It's a learning process, and I'm enjoying every step of it. And again, it's just about building and building and building and really, really, really building. I really want to get all the contrasts right before I start with the real overpaint. I don't know what it's called. Overpaint? Before I start with the real colors that I want to use. Because this is just to place it's not just to place everything. It's also to figure out where are the dark parts of the portrait. And the light is sort of coming from the left side. So the right side, which is her left, but to us it's on the right side of her face, is a bit darker. So I'm also working a little bit with that. And by this point, I am not so set up on, what do you call it, I'm not so determined to make it, to achieve likeness. Because at this point, I just want it to look like a human being. And to work on that expression of her face, which is a bit sad, and that's really my main goal here. It's not so much to achieve likeness, which it often is, I will admit that. But this is my first, so I'm being very forgiving with myself. Yeah, and this is all just play. And I'm really having fun. I was really having fun doing this. It felt new, and it felt exciting, and it felt a little bit difficult, or as I like to call it, challenging, which is just another word for exciting in my book. Yeah, yeah, so I just keep building and building and building and building, and in a few moments I will be ready to add some color. As you can see, I am it's constantly back and forth. I mean, I now when I'm yeah, okay, here the layer is super dry and I start off with the brown. As you can see, I've chosen a brown that has a lot of red and yellow in it. But because I used a purple undertone, it sort of dims down the yellowy and the orangey parts of the skin. And again, I am being a little too bold, but that's, again, I'm doing that on purpose because I really want to learn from this. And there's a lot of color on her left cheek, but I will correct it later, I think. So, but as I was saying, the purple sort of dims down the redness. It might not look like it at first, but once the color is dry, you'll be able to see it. And yeah, I'm doing it again there. I'm adding way too much color on the cheek, and because it's not the best paper, and because I haven't made it wet beforehand, because I just want it to go in and be as bold as possible and not have it be a light wash, it gets a little too heavy. But I work the color around with water. When you work with watercolor, the most important thing that I've learned, someone told me once, an artist who helped me get a grip on watercolor. Like I said, I never went to art school, but I paid an artist, a Danish artist I admire a lot. I paid her some money for a couple of hours of you know, I got to pick her brain about how to do a lot of things with watercolor. And she told me, remember that what you're really painting with is water. And that made a lot of sense, because you should never think about it as just, I mean, when you paint with acrylics or oil or gouache, it's often that you are concentrated on the pigments. And obviously you paint with pigments also when you work with watercolor, but it's different because if there's not enough water on your brush, the result will be patchy, and you will also put a lot of strain on your brush. So it's really about remembering the water. The water is central. I'm sorry, I don't have a very good way of explaining it, but maybe future videos will explain it better than I am able to. And now I am going in, that's a bit too early actually in the process. I'm going in with a very, very dark color, and I'm emphasizing, you know, the eyes and nostrils and that space between the lips and the upper eyelid, ears again. And as you can see, the hair, the braids of her hair is sort of gone, or they're very, very dimmed down because I put a lot of layer on it, but they will reappear, don't worry. But doing this portrait, it really helps me to understand how important it is to test your color on a separate paper before adding it, because sometimes I have way too much color on and sometimes I have way too little on my brush. So so sometimes I use too much water, which also can ruin the drawing. So there you go. I'm recreating those beautiful braids there. And still a long way to go, but I mean, it's a human being, right? It's a face. And again, waiting for it to dry and then adding even more color, because I want more contrast, I want more color, I want more glow of the skin. Because the reference photo, the girl in the reference photo has this amazing shade that's almost like burnt golden. I don't know how to describe it. It's just really beautiful, and I really wanted to recreate that. Also, as the painting like progresses, I change my I mean, what I wanted to achieve at first, it sort of changes. So I constantly how do you say that? I regulate my expectations to myself and to the portrait, I guess you could say that. Whereas at first I just wanted it to look like a human being. Then, okay, now I want to achieve, the right expression of her face. And once I have that, I want to work on the skin. And it's just constantly, I don't even see it as pushing myself, but I guess that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to just really just do a better job. And not necessarily when we have so much focus on likeness. I know, because I have that too. And I've had that for so long. And that's okay, but it shouldn't always only be about that. You should also be able to experiment like I'm doing here. And I'm just really enjoying experimenting this much. And just playing with the colors and using red also. And yeah. And here I'm sort of trying to remove some of the color because I made a too heavy line under her eye. And that can be a bit hard sometimes to pick up color if it's already dried. And I'm adding some eyelashes, I guess. And when you see the finished result, I mean, looking at it now, I could have done more, But I decided to stop because I also wanted it to be a little bit loose. And I wanted also to work on, or like keep it that way, because that's how I enjoyed doing it. So, because to sort of say that, I did this because I enjoyed it. I didn't do it because I wanted to achieve something, or that I wanted a certain outcome. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm all about the process, not the outcome. So as you can see, I'm going in with red. It's really, really radical, but I really like how her skin just starts to glow. And the red also really balances that brown and the purple. The purple is almost gone, and you would say that it's gone, but it's not. It's just not visible like that anymore. But you can still see it in certain places. And yes, I know her jaw is sort of crooked. And I know the mouth is also crooked and the eyes could have more depth and whatever. But listen, we're just having fun. We're having so much fun. And I really enjoyed working on her skin tone. I mean, it's just beautiful. And the way the light hits on the left side of the face. And trying to build the balance of the shading. Also, I would never use a black for shading. Never. I would use purple or darker browns or Payne's gray. Payne's gray is a color that is amazing, and you would say, oh, it's gray, but it's not. It's not really gray. It's a bluish gray, and it just sort of sparks the colors. I mean, it keeps the life of the color alive, whereas black just flattens any color. So I never use a black in a palette. If there's a black, I never use it. Because it sort of kills the colors. But you can use black for other things. You can do monochrome, and you can do, you can use it together with ink, for example. It's really good for that. So don't just throw it out. It can always be used for something else. Okay, so everything is dried up now, and I'm pretty happy with the result, but I want to make the background a little bit darker. And I remember she had on a white shirt. Oh, and I just forgot about her shoulder there. But anyway, just darkening the background a little bit. Which is a mixture of 2 brown shades and Payne's gray. The Payne's gray is a bit bluish, and the other 2 browns are burnt umber, and one that's called transparent brown. And the transparent brown is very reddish, and the burnt umber is this lovely grayish brown. And looking at it, I wanted, as always, to go in and emphasize a little more on some details. As the background was drying up, I wanted to just, again, go back and forth. It wasn't really as done as I thought it was, so, it's a feeling. I mean, I often get asked, when do you know a drawing is done? And sometimes it's because I just had enough of it. Usually it's because it's just a feeling. I don't know. Usually it's just, oh, okay, we're done here. I can't really describe it. But sometimes it's also because I'm fed up. And then I'm going in with a white Posca to emphasize some highlights on her lips and in her eyes. And also she was actually wearing earrings. And so I'm marking those with a white Posca and again working on the lips. And then, oh, it's so satisfying. I'm removing the tape. So you get this really clean and crisp line all around the portrait. And I could have done so much more on this portrait. I really could have. But I wanted to leave it a little bit raw and kind of unedited. So yeah, there we go. And then I'm picking up a fine liner to sign it. And again, after signing it, I think, oh my God, I forgot something. So I'm finding my thinnest fine liner, which is 0.05. And I'm going in and I'm sort of just doing a very thin line to sort of show where the earring goes. And then I find my finest brush and add a little bit of shading, because the earring sort of casts a shadow on her earlobe there. Yeah. And again, it's back and forth, and it's so lovely to get caught up in the details. I mean, if you draw, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's just such a gorgeous thing. And here we are, and the reference photo, and you can tell there's a lot of difference, but it was just fun. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time. Bye.